This is the Uptick Network Stock Day Podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Penny stock news and interviews from the microcap world. Public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world. With your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, we have a very exciting guest with us. His name is James Anderson. He is the CEO of Nulegacy Gold Corp. They trade on the TSX under the ticker symbol NUG, and they also trade on the OTCQX under the ticker symbol NULGF. James, welcome to the show, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much, Everett. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, give me a little bit of history of yourself and your company, and then we'll get into the side of the Q&A.
Sure, okay. The company was formed about 6 years ago to take advantage of some of the mining exploration projects that were coming available because of the financial crash in 2008, 2009. We've got a strictly Nevada focus, and I can talk with you and your listeners about why that is a little bit later. The professionals who make up our company, myself and our chairman Albert Matter, have had a long history of developing these mineral projects and bringing them closer to production. Roger Steiniger, who's our head of exploration based in Reno, Nevada, he has a pristine history of discovering gold deposits in the western United States.
Oh. So now, when you guys are basically a Nevada-based gold exploration company, and do you guys actually do the bringing up of the ore and everything, or do you subcontract that out?
Yeah, so mining is a very capital-intensive business.
Absolutely.
And what you're describing is almost always best left to larger mining companies. We're an exploration company. The big companies very rarely explore and develop very well. So the industry has tended to be kind of bifurcated in that way. So we are an exploration and development company. We find gold, and the business model really is, at the end of the day, to hand this off through some sort of M&A activity to a larger mining company.
Can you tell us a little bit about the exploring for gold and developing a gold deposit? A lot of people, when they think about Nevada, they think about the silver. They don't think about gold, but that's one of the largest gold deposit areas in the United States. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is correct, and it's a really good point that you bring up. Nevada is called the Silver State, and in the 1800s there was an enormous amount of silver mined in Nevada, and a lot of it for monetary purposes in the United States. That has kind of waned over the years, and a different type of geological formation, really called the Carlin-type gold system, is now responsible for an enormous amount of gold production in Nevada. Maybe your listeners may not be aware, but the United States is a very large gold-producing nation. It's the fourth largest gold-producing nation in the world, but 85% of that gold comes from Nevada.
That's
so
amazing.
If Nevada was its own country, it would be the fourth largest gold-producing nation on the planet.
Tell my listeners a little bit about your Carlin-type gold discovery and the iceberg deposit. What exactly is that?
Yeah, okay. So a Carlin-type gold system is a unique geological formation, really identified from the 1960s onward. There's only 4 or 5 different places on the planet that this type of geological formation has been identified. Nevada certainly is the place where it is being most identified and most exploited, but also in Canada's Yukon Territory, in Turkey, and in China. But in Nevada, this is where the vast majority of the produced gold comes from, is these Carlin-type gold systems, and it's named after the town of Carlin in north central Nevada, where the first of these was discovered. They're very large deposits, or at least they can be very large deposits. Typically, what you get is a very large envelope of low-grade gold mineralization, but within that, you can get high-angle fractures like fault zones, and when you plug into those, the grade goes up exponentially. So most of the mining that takes place in these types of deposits in Nevada gets produced by 2 major mining companies. One is Newmont, and that's the biggest U.S. gold mining company.
Correct.
And one is Barrick,
right.
Barrick Gold, who's one of our partners. They are a Canadian gold mining company, but Barrick actually is the largest gold mining company in the world.
My guest today is James Anderson. He is the CEO of Nulegacy Gold Corp. They trade on the OTCQX under the ticker symbol NULGF. James, I know you guys have done a lot of developments with Nulegacy over the past 6-8 months. And can you outline some of the progress for our listeners? When do you think that you guys will actually start monetizing and bringing it to market and actually making some money?
Sure. Well, let me tell your listeners just about some of the things that we've done over the last 6 or 8 months, because it really has changed the whole fabric of Nulegacy. The first thing that we did was consolidate the ownership structure of our Iceberg gold deposit, and by gaining 100% control of the deposit. And we did this by buying a minority 30% interest in the deposit from Barrick Gold, who I mentioned earlier, which is the largest gold mining company in the world. Secondly, Barrick nominated their head of global exploration, Rob Kretschmaroff, to our board, which is a real coup for us. It really fleshes out our exploration brain trust, if you will, that's leading the exploration activity on the Iceberg deposit. The next thing was a large Australian gold mining company, OceanaGold, became our largest shareholder by buying $6.5 million worth of treasury stock and financing the company for the next 2 years of work at the deposit. And then finally, Tocqueville Gold Fund, that's one of the top New York City-based gold funds, bought a substantial position in the company in a market transaction just maybe about a month ago. So our largest shareholders are now OceanaGold, Barrick Gold, Waterton Precious Metals, which is a private equity group out of Toronto, and Tocqueville, and collectively they own about 55% of the company.
Now, you bring up a very interesting point. Tocqueville, the gold fund, they put about almost a little bit, $4 million in you guys' pocket. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Now, that was a market transaction and didn't really go into our pocket, as opposed to the Oceana transaction. That was treasury stock, and that's funding the company.
But it helped your balance sheet, yes?
Yeah, I mean, what it really did was take a large block of stock and put it into very, very secure hands. So as I outlined, 55% of the shares are now owned by very long-term funds, gold funds, or industry players that are taking a very long-term view regarding our company and the Iceberg deposit.
Can you give my listeners a time frame of when you think we might be able to see deposits coming out of the ore and actually hitting the balance sheet?
Right. Okay. So let me put it this way. So as the deposit continues to grow and as the price of gold continues to improve, there's going to be more and more senior mining companies that are going to be interested in owning the Iceberg gold deposit. Okay. So one of the strengths of Nulegacy is that we know what we're good at, we know who we are, and that's exploring and developing mining assets. Putting one of these things into production is very capital intensive, and it requires a markedly different skill set. So it's our objective within the next 24 months to do some kind of M&A activity that'll benefit Nulegacy shareholders. It'll provide greater liquidity for our shareholders, and as well as a bump up in price, and leave the Iceberg deposit in the hands of a mining company with the capital and the expertise to bring it into production properly and professionally. So our two biggest shareholders right now, currently Oceana, which is about a $2.5 billion, that's billion with a B, Australian mining company, and Barrick Gold, once again, the largest gold mining company in the world. Those are our two largest shareholders. So they may well end up in control of the situation, or it might be a different third party. And we'll certainly do everything that we can corporately over the next 24 months to maximize the value for Nulegacy shareholders.
So where does Nulegacy go from here? I mean, do you guys have an exit strategy that your shareholders can look forward to?
Right, and that's the exit strategy that I'm talking about. So I've been in this business for a long time, Everett, and I've seen a lot of junior companies, smaller exploration companies, really struggle when they try to put one of these in production. We are unlikely to try and do that. The exit strategy will be to do some sort of M&A activity. So let's just call it a takeout by a major mining company over the next 24 months. And I think we've positioned the company for that kind of activity by having these two major mining companies own a significant portion of the shares already.
My guest today has been James Anderson. He is the CEO of Nulegacy Gold Corp. They trade on the OTCQX under the ticker symbol NULGF. James, in closing, is there anything that you and I didn't get a chance to talk about that you would like to get out to my listeners?
I guess just in terms of the resurgence of the bull market in gold, gold has much maligned over the last 3 or 4 years because it was in a severe bear market. But since the beginning of the year, gold has been the best asset of any asset class worldwide. A lot of the senior companies even are up 150 or 200% since the start of the year. So, I would respectfully submit to your listeners that this is a place that they might want to put some of their hard-earned money.
I thank James Anderson for coming on the show today. He's with Nulegacy Gold Corp, and they trade under the ticker symbol NULGF. James, thank you for coming on the show, and we're going to check back with you in a couple of months and see how things are going with your company.
Okay, outstanding. Thanks very much for the opportunity, Everett.